Hi guys, I'm back in another lecture of financial management, and in this lecture we'll be covering the fourth unit of financial management as per the syllabus of MBA. So just a brief introduction about myself. I'm Sandhya Rao, working as an assistant professor at St. Andrews Institute of Technology and Management. I'm from the EBA department, and let's start with the topic today. These are the topics that we are going to cover in today's lecture. So today we'll cover dividend decisions and the determinants of dividend policy. So this fourth unit is totally devoted to the third decision of financial management, that is dividend decision. And we'll also discuss about the working capital management. So what exactly is this dividend decision all about? We all know that when we issue equity shares or when we issue equity capital, we have to pay dividends as a return to the equity shareholders. So what is this or why is it so important that we have to take this decision very meticulously, and so much exercise or so much time is devoted to this decision? So let's study about it. So a dividend decision covers basically two things. One, that whether we have to pay dividend or not. Second is, if yes, that we are going to pay some amount of dividend, then how much, as in the quantum of the dividend that will be divided. So before we continue with the lecture, one very important term needs to be explained, that is DPS, which means dividend per share. We all know what EPS is, that is earnings per share. So whatever you have earned, the net profit that you have earned, which is meant for the shareholders, out of that, how much earnings are you going to pay as dividend? That is dividend per share, which means that what portion of the earnings is going as dividend is known as dividend per share. So DPS is the payout proportion of earnings per share. Okay, how much you are paying as dividend from the earnings. Now, why are we saying that the quantum that is being distributed as dividend is known as dividend per share? See, the entire earnings after the taxes have been paid, after the interest have been paid, and after the preference dividend has been paid, is meant for the equity shareholders. But still, we are not paying the entire amount to the shareholders. We often retain some amount of it. Why do we retain that amount? Because we have certain other things also which we want to carry out for our business. For example, if you want to expand in future, or we want to invest in some project, then we might use our own funds as well. Rather than borrowing all the time, we can also use our retained earnings. And from where do these retained earnings come? They are actually the portion that is not being distributed as dividend to the shareholders. So whatever is left is known as retained earnings. And if we skip to pay the dividend altogether, then the entire amount will be called retained earnings. Okay? So it depends upon the company that how much do they actually want to retain. So basically, dividend decision is a choice between present cash dividend and future capital gain. When we are not paying them dividend in present, we are actually compensating it in the form of giving them future capital gain. Now, what is this future capital gain, and why is there a need to make a choice between present dividend or future capital gain? Okay, so I'll give you an example. Let's say there are two companies. Company A gives you regular dividend, okay, and they are also increasing the dividend every year. And there is another company, that is company B, which is not paying current dividend, okay. They are not paying you current cash dividend. Instead of that, they are investing the amount that can be divided as dividend in some project, and that is very profitable project. And after, let's say, a period of 5 years, the company B has earned a huge amount of return, and they have also earned a huge reputation in the market. Now, with that reputation in the market, the company's share price will also go up, because companies who are doing well, who are earning good profits, are always viewed better, right? And their image also improves in the market. And when the image and the reputation is so good in the market, then the share price will also go up. Okay, so when the shareholders will actually want to go and sell their securities or sell their shares in the market, then which shareholders, the shareholders of which company will be in a better position, of company A or of company B? So obviously the people who are the shareholders of company B will find themselves in the better position, because they will be able to get a good price for their shares. Unlike company B, company A is only paying dividends. Okay, they're not investing anything. They're not investing in any profitable project. And for how long do you think a company can survive like this? A company needs to invest the money in order to grow in future. If they are not investing their money, and if they are continuing with the present operations, then they might not be able to um, grow in long terms. Okay, short term maybe they are enjoying a great period, but in long term they need to have substantial projects. Okay, they need to have substantial investments. So company B is always better. A company which is investing their money, which is retaining some amount of profits for future investment, is always viewed better. Okay. So what are the kinds of dividend decisions that we make? So there are two kinds of decisions. One, long-term financing decision, and second is wealth maximization decision. So long-term financing decision is basically when you want to think that if we are issuing securities, if we are issuing shares, then it is our liability, or let's say it is our duty, or we are morally obliged to pay some return to the shareholders. We all know that it's not mandatory for the dividends to be paid to the equity shareholders, but still it needs to be paid. Okay, so this is long-term financing decision. Now, the next thing which might come to the mind of the management is that in long run, our main objective is to maximize the wealth of our shareholders, right? And for that, we need to give them some sort of future capital gain, or we want to give them a hike in the share price so that they get a good resale value of the securities. Now, for that purpose, the company will have to do investments. So dividend decision is basically a trade-off between present cash dividend and future capital gains. So these two decisions are basically that only. One, that you should pay dividends to them. Okay. And second is that you should maximize the wealth of the shareholders by investing in some good project, by investing in some good scheme. Now, in both these decisions, whenever you make a choice, you have to let go of the another decision. Okay, you can't like totally have benefits of both the things. You have to let go of one thing. Or there is one more option. You can have a combination of these two. Okay, like thoda sa you can pay dividend, like you can pay some amount of dividend to the shareholders, and you can retain the rest of the amount for the future investments. Okay, but if you want to fully optimize that particular opportunity, then for that you will have to let go of the another decision. You cannot have the benefits from both. Now, the next concept that you need to understand is dividend payout ratio. I have told you what DPS is, dividend per share. So in the definition of DPS, I told you that it's the payout ratio from the earnings per share, or let's say what quantum of earnings per share are going as dividends. Okay, so how do we calculate that what quantum is going? So that is nothing but DPS divided by earnings per share. So we have reversed the formula. Okay, we have reversed the position and it remains the same. Now, when we say that we want to pay dividends to our shareholders, then there are different kinds of strategies or techniques that we can use to pay dividends. Okay, and that is known as dividend stability. Okay, so there are three kinds of it. One, constant payout ratio, and second is constant dividend per share. Now, what this constant payout ratio is? This is something when we are paying dividends which are in line with our earnings, okay? Which means that both earnings and dividends go hand in hand. They move in the same direction. If the earnings are increasing, then the dividends will also increase in the same direction, okay? By whatever proportion our earnings are increasing, the dividends will also grow in that same proportion. Let's say there's a hike of 20% in our earnings, then there will be a hike of 20% in the dividend also, okay? I'll give you an example. Let's say a company is having earnings per share of rupees 4, and our dividend, which is totally dependent upon the earnings, the rate is, let's say, 50%. So what's the 50% of 4 rupees? It's 2. Okay, which means that when the earnings are 4, we are paying a dividend of 2 rupees. Now in next year, if the earnings have increased and let's say it becomes 6 now, so what will be the dividend that we are going to pay now?
3.
Now, and let's say in the subsequent years, if the earnings have turned 8 or let's say 10, then what's going to be the dividend in that case?
4 and 5.
4 and 5, yes. So this is the relationship between EPS and DPS when we talk about constant payout ratio. So if I show you the diagram, and if you could see the screen, these two lines are parallel to each other. EPS and DPS are two parallel lines, okay, which means that they are moving in the same directions. On the x-axis we have time, and on the y-axis I have depicted EPS and DPS. So as we are moving ahead, let's say in year 1, in year 2, in year 3, as our earnings are increasing, the dividends are also increasing in the same direction. Okay, so this is constant payout ratio, when we fix a particular rate at which our dividends are going to be paid from the earnings. Okay, we have fixed a rate. So this is constant payout ratio. I hope this example is clear and this concept is clear of constant payout ratio.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Moving on to the next strategy or next technique. This is constant dividend per share. Now here, this is slightly different from constant payout ratio. In constant payout ratio, our dividends were dependent upon the earnings, but here it's not dependent upon the earnings and they both move in different directions. If you could see the diagram, EPS is increasing, the graph is increasing, the slope is increasing, but DPS is moving in a totally different direction. It's constant for a particular period of time, then there's a hike, then again it's constant, again there's a hike, and again it's constant for a period of years, for a number of years. So this is constant dividend per share, which means that here our dividend is not dependent upon the earnings but on the number of shares. So just like preference shares, where we fix a particular rate of dividend that we are going to pay, which is totally dependent upon the number of shares. So just like that, here also we have fixed a rate of dividend that we are going to pay on the number of shares. Let's say if the number of shares is 20,000 and the rate is 10%. So we'll pay 2,000 as the dividend, and it will be constant till the time we have the same capital in our capital structure. And if we issue some new equity shares, then obviously uh, uh, we also want to give the shareholders some hike, and let's say we have increased the rate to 12% now, so then there will be a shift and it will again be constant for a number of years. And then again, when we feel that the market is changing and the economy is changing and we should also change our strategy, we should also give our shareholders some hike, then again we will change the rate of dividend, and again it will be constant for a number of years, but it is not getting affected by the earnings. Okay, it is moving in a totally different direction. EPS and DPS are not parallel to each other in this case. Okay, So this is constant dividend per share. And the company distributes a fixed amount of cash dividend in this case, and it also helps the company to create a reserve, so that which allows them to pay a fixed dividend even when the earnings are low or there are losses. Let's say if we keep a very low dividend rate, let's say it's only 5% or let's say 4%. Now in the time of when in the times when we are not earning good profits, or the company is incurring losses, then it's very beneficial for the company, because the company is still going to continue with the same dividend that they were paying before. So there won't be much change in it. Although it's not mandatory for the company to pay dividend, but still if they want to, they can do it, because they have not kept the rate of dividend very high. So this is the benefit of constant dividend per share. So if you see this example, the EPS or the earnings per share over 2 years were 4 and 5. Now the number of shares is 10,000 and the constant payout on the number of shares is 10%. So the dividend that you're going to pay will be 10% of 10,000, which is 1,000. So the DPS means, which is dividend per share. The total dividend that you're paying is 1,000 divided by the total number of equity shares, which is 10,000. So the DPS comes out 0.1. So even when the earnings are increasing from 4 to 5, the DPS will remain same. That is 0.1. Now it's not always mandatory that the dividends will always grow. It might also fall down. Okay, so this graph which is increasing can also fall down, but in no case it will move in line with the earnings per share. Okay, the earnings per share may increase or decrease, but the dividends per share will move in a totally different direction. Okay, so this is constant dividend per share. Now, how do we actually get to know that how much dividend should we pay, or whether we should pay dividend or not? So what are these factors that actually affect the dividend policy? So we'll discuss them one by one. There are 8 factors which actually affect the dividend policy. One, type of industry. Second, the age of corporation. Third, the extent of share distribution. Fourth, business cycle. Then changes in government policy also have a bearing upon the dividend policy. Trends of profits, taxation policy, and cash balance. So how does the type of industry affect the dividend policy? We all know that there are different kinds of industry, and every industry is characterized by the stability of earnings. Okay, any industry which is paying stable dividends is viewed a better company. Okay, and we always everybody wants a stable income. Everybody wants that if they are making any investment, then they should get regular return or stable returns out of it. So, public utility concerns are in a much better position to adopt a relatively fixed dividend rate than the industrial concerns, because we all know that when we are investing our money in any government company, we feel more secure, we feel more safe, because that company, that government owned company might not default on making our payments of dividend or interest. So it is always beneficial for the government companies to follow a fixed dividend rate. And if we talk about private concerns, then they can adopt any kind of return, and they can also have constant payout ratio. They can also have constant dividend per share. It depends on the company. And the age of the corporation also have a bearing upon the dividend decision. The newly established company require most of their earnings for plant improvement, expansion, because they are in the early stage of business. So they need to expand, they need to explore new avenues, and they need lots of investments. Okay, they have to invest in the expansion also, they have to invest in the purchase of new machinery. So for that purpose, it's beneficial and it's always advisable that they pay less dividend to the shareholders. Rather, they should retain most of the earnings, and they should invest it in some useful project. And if the age of the corporation is old, let's say if the company is in business for 20 years or 30 years, then they can pay high dividends to their shareholders, because they do not have to worry much about their expansion, although they still have scope for expansion and other things. But they are in such a position, they have good cash reserves and they have earned a good reputation, and they are having those reserves to to sustain high rates of dividends, so they can easily go about it. The next thing is extent of share distribution. If the company is having, if the company has have many shareholders, and there is another company which is not having so many shareholders, like limited shareholders are there, then with limited shareholders, you can obviously pay a large amount of dividend. You can have lenient dividend policy. But when you are having many shareholders with you, then you have to think about all the shareholders, because most of your earnings will go in the form of dividends. So you have to follow rigid dividend policy, so you can only pay small amount of dividend to them. Next is business cycle. There are four kinds of business cycle in any industry. One, boom period, recession, recovery, and depression. So during all these cycles, we face different kinds of situation in working of our business. So when the business or when the industry is enjoying boom period, which means that the economy is operating well, in that case you can obviously pay good dividends to your shareholders. But if the company or if the economy is in recession or in depression, then in that case you cannot pay a huge amount of dividends. And even if you're doing that, then that will only land you in trouble in later stage, or in the upcoming years, because it's just not advisable that you go with huge amount of dividends when the economy is in recession. Okay, because in recession what happens is that the demand goes very low, and if the demand is so low that you won't be able to suffice with your incomes, in that case it's advisable that you pay less dividend. Also, the government policy affects the rate of dividend that you're going to pay. Sometimes government intervene and they put a benchmark that you have to pay this much amount of dividend to the shareholders, or they put a ceiling that you cannot go beyond this percentage of dividends. So time and again government comes up with their own regulations, their own policies, which govern the dividend policy of different industries. Next is trends of profits. If the company's track record needs to be checked, then we should always see that what are the trends of profits, or how are the companies how the company is earning profits. Like what's the graph of the growth of company? Is it increasing or is it decreasing? Obviously if it is increasing, then the company can pay good dividends, they can pay high dividends. But if the graph is sloping down, if the profit figures are going down, then the company will obviously cannot pay huge amount of dividends. And even if it's constant, it's advisable that you do not pay huge amount of dividends. Either keep it constant, or you can give a slight fall in the rate of dividend or a small hike in the dividend, but do not go uh, too much high or too much low. Then the next thing is taxation policy. Taxation policy also affects the dividends that we are going to pay. There are taxes that we pay directly on our income, and sometimes we also pay it indirectly. So directly means as much as they reduce the residual profit after tax available for the shareholders, and indirectly means as the distribution of dividends beyond a certain limit is itself subject to taxes. Okay. So how does it, what exactly does it mean is that when you are paying taxes, it reduces your income, it reduces your residual income, which means the amount that is left for the shareholders. Okay. So if the taxation policy is very high, ultimately you will have to reduce your dividends, because you cannot pay huge dividends, because your income left for distribution of dividend has already been reduced. And how does it affect indirectly means that if you go beyond a certain limit, then you ultimately come under the tax bracket of the government. Okay, you have to pay taxes only to a certain amount or only to a certain level. It's exempt from any kind of taxes. Then the next thing is the cash balance. If you have sufficient cash, only then you will be able to pay the dividends, and if not, then you won't be able to pay the dividends. So it's all very general that, you know, if you have cash, only then you will be able to pay the dividends, and the tax also affects the dividend policy or the trends of profits, and government policies also affect the dividend policy, business cycle, and the extent of share distribution. If you have huge amount of shareholders, and if you have a small a small number of shareholders, then you can pay more amount of dividends, or the age of corporation, or the type of industries. So these are very general factors that have a bearing upon the dividend policy of any company. So let's just end it here, and I'll continue with the Walters model in the next lecture of dividend policy. And yeah, that's it. Okay, thank you guys.